Hey there, everyone. Thanks again for tuning in to Sin's Workshop. Hope you're having a wonderful day. All right. Today, we are going to talk about Iron Widow. Love this book. Let me just start by saying that. I love this book. I literally, probably just an hour ago, finished writing the physical review, which means it's still like fresh in my brain. So, the novel is a historical futurism. Basically, the author, and I love the author, first of all, let me just say, I think the author's great. I love how in the author's note, they say, when I first thought of Iron Widow, I keep asking myself, was I high? Yes, that's great, because it's supposed to incorporate elements of Pacific Rim and A Handmaid's Tale. Now, she says Handmaid's Tale really, that's what she's equating it to, because that's a really Western concept of what she wants to, of how she wants to relate the story to Western audiences. And I get that, I 100% understand that, especially as you're reading it. And let me tell you something. I am not someone who usually reads the author's notes or the acknowledgments, although I'm starting to lately, because, I don't know, I just want to get to the story. But I'm glad I did, because I really did understand where the author was coming from when they were saying, oh, Handmaid's Tale, So, but not really. But you kind of see the illusion. You kind of see the similarities. Now, the Pacific Rim similarities are just like screaming in your face. So we'll get into that in a second. I really just want to talk about our main protagonist, who Zetian, Zetian, who is based off of the Empress Wu Zetian, which is amazing because she's the first, I think she is the first empress, the one and only empress that China's ever had, if I remember the author's notes correctly. And I think that's incredible. Like, she rose from concubine, she lasted dynasties, She was just like in your face, kind of powerful. She was provocative, she was thoughtful, she was cunning. And I think that definitely translates into this novel, because you're following our main protagonist, and she has pretty much offered herself up because she wants to be a concubine, not because of the power and privilege. She wants to be a concubine because she wants to kill the man who beat her sister to death. Now, it's understandable. If you're going to become a concubine, what they are, yin and yang, right? Lots of yin and yang in this story, and I always forget which is which. So, in order to control, the giant robots, which they call chrysalids, you need to have a certain amount of spirit pressure. So you've got the men and the women. The women are there to balance out the men, to give the men their support. But it's supposed to be strictly male dominant in this story. And it is. The women are just used as fodder, basically, to keep the men alive, Now, she goes into this fully knowing she's probably going to die, whatever. But she wants to take, what's his name? I can't remember his name because he's, insignificant, really. She wants to kill the man who beat her sister to death, because her sister died in a fall. So, yeah. Sure, in a fall. Okay, we'll go with that. And for Zetian, she's just like, no, this doesn't make sense. He killed her. He beat her to death. I saw the pictures of her body. He beat her to death. And the only other person who believes her is this. God, I just love him too. This boy, you know, rich boy, educated, and he is probably her best friend, and he believes in her, and she loves him. They do love each other. They do, and I love their relationship. But I'll talk about that more in a second. So she goes with the intent to kill him. They're under attack from the aliens, the Huans, and she finds the proof that she always knew was true. Like, yeah, because you know, just think Pacific Rim when they're in that spirit realm, right? Not or the mind meld. You know, they're mind melding. And what's incredible is, and this isn't a spoiler because this is in like the first chapter and it's in the synopsis, she totally just takes control and kills him. It's great. Like, her mind is more powerful, so she's called the Iron Widow. They're just like, it's an Iron Widow. She's an Iron Widow. And she's like, excuse me, what? You have a name for it? So that means there's precedence for this stuff happening? Women can take over? Women are powerful? And they're like, look, we're going to keep this in the wraps, but we need you. You want to live? You gotta, you know, bend to our will. So she plays the long game. She does. And I think it's really great how she plays the long game. I love her characterization. And I love the dynamic she has with the other characters. So you've got two other male characters. You've got, and I wish I wrote their names down, and of course, I did not. So you've got her new partner, who is a criminal. And why is he a criminal? Because he killed his brothers and father. Why? Because they were doing something horrible to an innocent person. So he is not a bad guy. And I'm just like, with Zetian, she's like, your family, do they deserve it? And he said, yes. She's like, I believe you. And that's an exact thing. And I love how their relationship just develops over the course of the novel. They come to really understand each other and respect one another. And then, of course, you've got the rich boy. And he is also incredible and formidable in his own way. You're just like blown away by how I just love their relationship. I do. They do form a polyamorous relationship, and you're seeing the love and respect that these three characters have for one another as they go through the motions of the plot, you know, of just trying to navigate and take down this system of misogyny and sexism. It's incredible how they do that, and I love it. 100%. I love how they want to investigate, the three of them. They want to bring down this system of sexism that purposefully keeps women chained and restricted. I mean, Zetian, the only reason she knows how to read is because her friend taught her. He taught her how to read. He taught her history. He taught her everything she is forbidden to know because she is a woman. And I do love how the author does address some historical facets in the novel as well, like foot binding. You really are seeing, now this is just my perspective of it, you really are seeing the systemic sexism and how it just bleeds into society with foot binding. I mean, she has such resentment for her family. I mean, when she was a child, I mean, I don't know if you know anything about foot binding, but it is the process of breaking all the bones in your feet and then binding them so that, well, your feet are smaller, because having small dainty feet is considered more womanly than having, normal feet. It was a sign of status and of privilege. I did do some research on that. So you're seeing it, and you're seeing how she just resents her family for this, because you've got those wild tribes of women, and she encounters two of them. They don't have their feet bound, and she's just like, they walk away with such strength she could never muster because of her feet binding. She talks about how she lost a couple toes to an infection, and it's interesting because, and I did do some research on that. I'm like, why would her family do this to her? So, historically speaking, getting an infection from foot binding was actually considered good. It was encouraged. In fact, they would purposely sometimes infect the feet so that you could lose toes, because it would make it easier for future foot binding. And it's just the process of breaking your feet and then binding your feet really, really tightly and then doing it again, and you're just like, ow, why? But a lot of cultures are different. A lot of cultures view some beauty things, aspects as different than us. Again, but I don't think it's put into practice anymore. I don't think so. But you're kind of seeing how the author is using this element of history along with the historical figure in a futuristic setting, because it's pretty futuristic, to highlight the rampant misogyny and sexism going on. And I love that at every chance she gets, Zetian is just like, well, fuck you. I'm not going to hold my tongue. She stands up for pretty much everything. She's such a headstrong character. I absolutely love headstrong female characters who don't take anyone's shit. I'm like 100% here for that. So I loved it. I loved the polyamorous relationship between the characters. I love the love and respect and growth between the three of them. I can't wait to see what the next novel is going to bring as far as their relationship comes, because it warmed my heart to see these three people love each other and care about each other so deeply. It warmed my heart. How they just are a unit, and a strong unit at that. And I love the Pacific Rim kind of element to the story. I like Pacific Rim. I like the first movie. I didn't get to see the second movie, but I like the first movie. Pacific Rim was great. And I love that element to this. I love how the author was really able to blend historical elements from her culture to this futuristic element as well, and it's just like, it works so perfectly. Was she high? Who knows? It was great. Maybe it was like a fever dream that she had. I don't know. It was just brilliantly done, I think. So this was Iron Widow. Highly recommend. I'm gonna have to give it 4.75 stars, not quite 5, but just so close. And that cliffhanger at the end, I was like, what? It was a jaw-dropping moment. Please remember to support your local bookseller or online book retailer when purchasing the book. All I ask is that you support your bookstores instead of Amazon. If there's no bookstore near you, bookshop.org, barnesnoble.com, booksamillion.com, IndieBound, Book Depository, Federal Books. I feel like there's another one. Please don't forget to support me by liking this video and sharing it with all your book-loving friends, as well as subscribing. I love it when you guys subscribe. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and as always, happy reading.